Hey, what's going on, everybody? Wow, we got the rewind right here. And man, we have a lot to rewind to. We're going to kind of go in chronological order. You've probably seen some of the breaking news that we've had this week. We're going to get to that. Let's talk a little spring ball, though. Right off the top of the show, Uncle Neely joining us from Boulder, Colorado. Big Unc, you have seen a couple of scrimmages. We have that content up the Pregame Show Network. The big one that everyone's looking forward to, the spring game this weekend. But some of the things that you noticed that the people might have missed from the first couple of scrimmages leading up to the big spring game on Saturday.
Well, I'll tell you what, Tolly, as we head into the spring game, we now have practice 13 behind us. Practice 14 will be coming up on Thursday, and the spring game, which is practice 15, will be Saturday. So effectively only two more practices left, one before the spring game, if you will. What I've taken away from these past two scrimmages, something I talk about repeatedly as you get deeper into football time, is cleaning up the game, making sure that when you have officials out there, that you're playing according to the rules. And I couldn't have been more excited this morning than when General Manager Coach David Kelly got up and he put up on the big screen the number of penalties from both scrimmages compared to the penalties we had during the year, but didn't just stop there, compared them to the penalties University of Michigan had, who just won the national championship. Because make no mistake about it, our goal here is a championship, and you have to play championship football even in April or learn how to prepare and head that way. So to look at the number of penalties that were happening, some 60+% of them pre-snap or dead ball, you absolutely have to clean it up out the game if you're going to be a successful program.
Would you be shocked, Neely, that if on Saturday for the big spring game, which people can catch on the Pac-12 network, it might be the last thing you ever watch on the Pac-12 network. The Pac-12 network might go to color bars as soon as the scrimmage is. Would you be shocked? Would you be shocked, Neely, if those offsides, dead ball penalties are still an issue on Saturday?
I wouldn't be surprised because we have a tremendous upgrade in talent, but this team still has not played together long and learned how to communicate during real game situations. Practicing is one thing, game situations is another. So I wouldn't be surprised. Now, if we're still doing this mid-August, I would be surprised. But whatever happens in the spring, you're cleaning up some things, you're installing. And when you talk about Pac-12, Charlie, I got the Pac-12 backdrop behind me. You see the helmets. You won't be seeing those helmets when we do shows from Boulder this fall. Everything around here is changing. The portal is changing things. Coming up to the spring game, things are changing. So I wouldn't be surprised if you still see some penalties in this spring game. But what I'm looking for is less of the same type of penalties and an erasure of those situational penalties. You can't jump off sides on 4th and 3 and give the offense a whole new set of downs. It's those kind of things that will destroy a game and keep you out of a championship.
All right, as the show moves on, Neely, how close are you to Denver? How far away? Denver and Boulder?
We're about 25 miles from Denver.
Okay, could you please go smack Jamal Murray upside the head because he upset our director Miles so bad last night or on Monday night, whenever you're watching this, by that last second buzzer beater against the Lakers. Miles barely made it to work this morning. I can't have Miles upset or else we can't do good shows. So please send the word to Jamal Murray there in Denver. We are not pleased.
Our biggest market on the Pregame Show Network is Atlanta. Shout out to Atlanta. Atlanta and Houston are always the top number of views. Dallas, Chicago, always the top number of views. Now, Atlanta is the East Coast city. I'm here in Metro Denver, and I was watching that game Monday night, and I was sleepy. I know 2 hours wait. Miles had to be sleepy. But Jamal Murray, man, was 8 of 23, takes that shot and goes 9 of 24, and then wins at the buzzer. Much respect to Jamal Murray and what he's done in his NBA career, but I want the guy that's 8 of 23 to shoot the last shot. Go right ahead. And he made it.
All of us East Coast Laker fans, we are struggling today. We are struggling. All right, I tell you who is not struggling, Neely, as we go to the rundown here. Miles, thank you so much. That would be the detractors, the people who just watch for the portal and wait for somebody to leave Colorado so they can say, what a clown show. Why don't you, coach, stay off Instagram? I don't know that they sound like that, but we know what the detractors will say. And they got some pretty good ammunition. You may have seen our kind of breaking news segment that we did here. Dylan Edwards announced that he is leaving along with Savion Wilkerson in the transfer portal, along with Cormani McClain from last week. Those are two big names, Neely. And that's, you have said it, that's the life of the portal. Sometimes you look up and you're like, oh man, we got us one. And sometimes you're going to look down like, oh man, we lost one.
Well, certainly, shout out to the Get Off My Lawn crowd shared by IP Freely in the comments. I know they're going to have something negative to say, but this is just what happens in college football. And once again, you have a player leaving Colorado that probably won't stack up in the top 20 people in the portal, when they put those available players out there. Dylan Edwards did have an impact here. That TCU game, that breakout game, what a wonderful game he had. Talented young man. Looking forward to opportunity wherever he lands. Questionable his decision to leave here. Was it really based on opportunity, based on shine or reps? I don't know. We went into details with our breakdown. But I tell you, the Cormani McClain one, I saw recently he talked about he wanted to be somewhere where it wasn't about clicks. Well, let me tell you what it is about here. It's about attending team meetings. It's about coming to practice. It's about watching film. And I remember one team meeting that Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, stood up and said, Cormani, I want to start you this Saturday. But here's what you got to do to start. You got to be at meetings on time this week. You got to watch this number of minutes of film, and I need you at practice performing. He missed on all three of the opportunities. He didn't get 1 out of 3, 2 out of 3. He went 0 for 3 on all those opportunities and didn't get to play that weekend. Coach Prime has an open door to his players. You can come air grievances, tries to work things out, sort things out. But when you reach a point where players aren't doing their end of the deal and also not communicating, that's when you see people part ways. I think a lot of the portal is about opportunity, but sometimes the portal is about it just doesn't work environmentally for some people. Some people have personality clashes. Some people's goals are different in life, and it just doesn't work out.
Oh, my. Neely, I'm clutching my chest. Neely bought the receipts. Oh, now look. Now you have to have done something. Now, Uncle Neely, since I've known Uncle Neely, even at Jackson State, when people were Neely would say, I don't have anything to say. Once a Tiger, always a Tiger. Now, when Neely pulls out the receipts, man, I got to sit up in my chair, make sure I behave the rest of the show. I don't want Neely dropping any receipts on me because he might have a few. He might have a few, but hey, facts are facts.
Well, Tolly, we are big boys here in Colorado. We understand Coach Prime is a lightning rod. He has a gravitational pull like no other in sports. And I said no other in sports, not just college sports. So we get that he's going to be attacked and blamed or accused when something goes wrong. But the fact of the matter is, internally, man, you see this guy pour his heart and soul into these kids, open door, has lunch with them, rides the elevator, works out with them. You have every opportunity in the world to talk to this coach when you want to. And when you choose not to communicate with a guy whose door is wide open, more open than any other coach out there, well, that's on you, Tolly. And when you're given opportunity after opportunity and you're told specifically what it will take for you to accomplish things here and you fail to do them, well, that's on you, Tolly. And one thing that I get tired of is the mass media or people in the comments when they see someone leave the program, they attack this head coach as if it's guaranteed it has to be something he's doing wrong. And when you take a deep dive and look at the player that's leaving and the reason that they're leaving, it has very little to do with Deion Sanders and how he operates. It has a lot to do with there are people who don't want to compete. There are people who think they're above the standards, and that just doesn't work in a Coach Prime environment. He ain't cutting deals. Everybody has to grind if you want to shine.
The whole want to be somewhere that's not about the clip, that gave me a Dan Lanning flashback. He might go to Oregon.
Good luck.
I'm still not over Dan Lanning. That made me so mad, Neely. The whole thing about the clicks and the letting the cameras in to capture that. I still haven't forgot that. I'm still in my feelings about that one. You talk about an open door policy as we move on in the show here. Our next topic here on the Rundown on the Pregame Show Network. Neely, there is definitely an open door policy for Uncle Neely, and you got to go in there and have a sit down with Coach Prime. You're teasing us. You're teasing us on the network, Neely. Part 1, part 2. You won't ever just give us all the goods. You make us keep coming back. Good executive leadership by you. But you don't abuse this privilege. You only every once in a while have a sit down with Coach Prime. What was on his mind this week in case the people missed it?
Well, part 1, as you said, is up on the Pregame Show YouTube channel, the Pregame Show YouTube. You can go there and see part 1. Later this week, we'll be dropping part 2, and perhaps the morning of the spring game, we'll be dropping part 3. I had about a 40-minute sit down with Coach Prime where we covered a bunch of topics, including the portal, including his staff and what he expects of them, and most importantly, what he expects of himself. So we talked about standards, non-negotiable standards. Where do we go from here? Are you resting on that this team has just improved, or are we pushing the needle to get the best out of this group of young men? So we covered a lot of things, including the time I left a plate in his office and he knew it was me. So we had a bunch of topics we talked about, Tolly, and exclusive content only on the Pregame Show. You got to go check it out. Neely and Prime, one-on-one for about 40 minutes. Gonna put it out in 3 parts. Part 1 is already up.
How many gassers did you have to run for leaving a plate in Coach Prime? I know it was an empty plate, and that's how he knew it was your plate. Spoiler alert. There weren't any crumbs, weren't any corners of the bread left. It was nothing but an empty plate. You might have licked the plate, depending on what chef cooked that day. I know when my grandma made spaghetti, I would lick the plate. But how much trouble did you get in, Neely?
Well, I didn't get in any trouble, and you're half right. The plate was about half clean. We were having a meeting in what became his recruiting lounge. Back then, it was just a conference room. And I was sneaking back into his office, and I eat a little bit off my plate and come back. Well, one of those times, I didn't realize he was in the restroom there, and he came out the door, and he said, I knew that was your plate. I knew exactly whose plate that was. And so I used that to lay the backdrop of how well he knows the people around him and how he expects things from them and what to expect from them. And it's part of his discernment factor when he's rarely caught off guard by things because he evaluates the talent around him, knows what to do to get them to rise to the occasion, knows when to move on to people. And you, Tolly, were with us during the Jackson State days. You were HBCU game day. I was doing the pregame show from Jackson. And we saw this guy go undefeated and win championships and still make staff changes. So I was talking to him about, Coach, what is it about winning that winning ain't enough for you? If it ain't dominant, it ain't right. You will make changes even when it's going well. And so I would expect that through this fall and next year, there's still going to be changes in Colorado because Deion Sanders' standard keeps moving up.
Well, one of the changes we saw was the addition of Warren Sapp, another Hall of Famer, and he's now there as part of the program. And of course, he's pouring into that defensive line. You had a chance to get more content of Warren Sapp up on the Pregame Show Network this week, and you also tied in cookies with Warren Sapp. Neely, what's going on there?
Sapp, man, his energy out there teaching. I marvel at this Hall of Famer who is directly instructing this defensive line and the way their eyes widen and brighten when they realize and appreciate who's teaching them. You could just see the light bulb go off, the aha moment. This defense, not just the defensive line, hangs on every word he says. They listen, because they know he knows football. And when we're in that huddle with him, and let me say this about Coach Sapp, you ain't got to mic him up. He'll tell you, you're going to always hear him before you see him. When you're in the building and you're on the floor, you know if Warren Sapp is on the floor because his presence is felt. He's doing a phenomenal job here coaching. Going to spend some more time with him this week onto the spring game because here, I think I've said it before, but I can say it here again and be crystal clear about it. Coming to the Pregame Show Network, there's a weekly Neely and Warren Sapp show. We think we're going to be dropping it on Wednesdays, and this is going to be Wind Down with Warren, or there's going to be Warren Wednesdays or something like that. But weekly show coming with Coach Sapp and Neely. Man, going to be phenomenal.
That's gonna take over the internet there. And you did tie in cookies, right? Did I read the title right? It was Warren Sapp and then something about some cookies.
Coach Stink, if I can call him that. You told me to call him that.
Mark Schlereth. Everybody widely knows him as Stink. You're not wrong in that.
The wife Not the wife. His wife's cookies are phenomenal. The line was around the weight room to get a handful of cookies. Nobody wanted to just get one. You had to get all the cookies you could.
Man, could you imagine making cookies for an entire football team full of people who might be even a little more greedier than Neely?
Hey, and Tolly, you run the math, man. You think about this: 100+ guys on the team right now. You know, you got more players than you got numbers. That's what spring ball is about. Another 20 to 30 out there in staff. You count student equipment volunteers. Man, you're talking about 150 people at practice, and nobody went without multiple cookies. Coach Stink's wife, Miss Stink, we love you. Them some damn good cookies. You baked a lot of them.
That was a lot of them. And you forgot the most important part. And Neely. You got more players than numbers. You got staff. And Neely. How Neely? Don't lie. Don't lie. How many cookies did you have, Neely?
I'm not gonna lie to you, Tolly. One, I don't know how many I had, but I can show you how many I had. I had about that many. However many cookies you could fit in that grip. That's how many I had.
That's a head's worth. I don't know if you saw your picture, but that matched your head.
and Tyler Brown, offensive lineman that we call Rock, he got the same amount, but his hands are bigger, so he probably mathematically had more cookies. But we both got a personal hands full.
I like how you set that up, because you said, Tyler, I ain't gonna lie to you. And then you said one, and you let that hang for a second, like the answer was one, but it was like, no, I'm gonna give you a chronological answer, starting with the number one.
I got one handful.
All right. Let's end the rewind here. There may be a handful of running backs that you don't know are Colorado Buffs that will be Colorado Buffs in the week to come, because there are some openings. We talked about this earlier in the show. Some transfer portals coming out, maybe a little surprising to some. Definitely had the breaking news feel this week. But let's talk a little bit more about Charlie. Charlie got promoted, upgraded to the number 2 spot. Coach Prime has just loved his effort. Now, Neely, this has really been a feel-good story. It kind of has had the Rudy, kind of feel to it. It's a great story in practice. It's a great story for our content. But, I mean, let's be real here. Can Charlie be a real deal on-the-field contributor for this season coming up?
Let me tell you this. Charlie Offerdahl is beyond a feel-good story. Charlie Offerdahl is the real deal. This young brother works hard every day. Well, let me get it straight now. When I say brother, I mean that in the love way. Charlie's a white boy. I'm black. But Charlie runs that rock. He makes the most of every opportunity. He does more with opportunities than some of the starters/scholarship players, because they may take a play off or not hit it with enthusiasm. Every time Charlie Offerdahl gets the ball, he runs it and gets the effort like it's his last time getting the ball. And you have to think about this, Tolly, and to the fans and listeners out there. When he's with the 3s or the 2s, he's going against the 1s. So he's getting tackled by the number 1 defense Colorado has. And I don't know if y'all know about college football, but scholarship guys on defense, they don't just pat the walk-on guy on offense on the butt. Like, they bring it to him. And Charlie doesn't complain, hands the ball to the ref, goes right back to the huddle. And he has been doing that since this time last year. I think what you're going to see, there are going to be other running backs to come this summer. There's no doubt about that. We're going to have a completely different running back room this August. But the Charlie Offerdahl that we have seen this spring, building off of what we saw last spring, you're going to see Charlie Offerdahl get some carries in a game, which means that quote-unquote Rudy-type moment just may happen. Just think about when Charlie Offerdahl breaks one through the A-gap and goes 64 yards for a touchdown untouched. It's going to go crazy at Folsom Field.
I mean, there's no roof there, but if there was one, it would come off, because it's not just, the guys on the team love Charlie and I'm just going to take a leap and swat me down if I'm wrong. I would imagine campus wide, Charlie's a beloved figure there in Boulder.
Charlie is a love figure in Boulder amongst the students, amongst people casually absorbing this program. When you look at the platforms that cover the internal workings of the program, Charlie's a star in all the comments because people see his work ethic, they see his drive, and they also see that this is coming from a guy who's not on scholarship. I've seen Charlie recently do some NIL stuff with some Colorado law firms, so he's starting to grow in that because he's earned and is well-deserved. But he's an example of one of those guys who's a personification of when Coach Prime says, put the NFL ahead of NIL and you'll go much further in life. Charlie Offerdahl is going to be a professional in whatever he chooses to do because his work ethic and determination is going to mandate that outcome. I can't wait to see Charlie get his opportunity in a real live game this fall because I'm telling you, it's going to happen.
His mustache should get an NIL deal, Neely.
You know, I don't know how he doesn't have some kind of hair deal because he got the Tom Selleck mustache and hair, some kind of grooming products. I don't care if it's Ace combs or maybe an Afro pick. You got to give Charlie something hair related because he's styling that hair and that mustache, man.
I mean, he has enough mustache. There should be like a mustache shampoo or something, man. You gotta keep that thing clean, right?
You would think. You would think.
All right. Well, hey, it's been a lot of fun here on the Rewind. We are looking forward to the spring game coming up. Of course, we're going to have some content for you on that right here on the Pregame Show Network. So, man, we have developing news this week. We got the big spring game. There's a lot going on. So make sure that you stay connected with us on social media, on our website, thepregameshow.com. You know the YouTube is jumping because that's where you are right now. It is a big week for Colorado football, and we're going to keep you connected with everything that's going on. For my man, Uncle Neely in Boulder, Colorado, I'm Tolly Carr in Atlanta. We'll check you guys out a little later.